Tony, can you stop?
Yeah, of course. So now we have Azevedo, but go for it. Let's just start.
Well, I'll talk about the construction of a retro flying saucer takeoff. Why retro flying saucer? Last year, I listened to this song I'm going to play you, and I thought, lots of images came to my mind. I could, it was very clear that, some kind of this retro 50s, 60s flying saucer was trying to take off, as though it was heavy, going against gravity, especially in the last minute of the song, which I will call the coda. And I started wondering why. Why did I have this this kind of mental image? Well, I spent my life analyzing music and trying to find meaning of musical items put together. So, I am not the average listener. And I always think, what people in general might understand from what they hear. And then I normally do reception tests. I adapt the idea from Philip Tagg, and I add some kind of semi-structured interview after I do the reception test. And I've been doing that for about 10 years with different songs, and the results are astonishing. We have lots of different insights, things we didn't think of as musicologists. We have lots of surprises. Sometimes we confirm some kind of hypothesis that we had when we listened to the song, to the piece, and many times we have surprises. So, I had this. I found this picture, which, this is the kind of flying saucer that I saw in my mind when I listened to that song. Flying saucer, the term, I understand that here in English, you don't normally refer to this kind of object as flying saucer, right? In Portuguese, the literal translation would be flying saucer. For what but normally you use UFO, no flying saucer, because flying saucer to me refers to something more retro, like the 50s and 60s science fiction movies, just like this one. So, and I think, even though we don't have a lot of time, I think it's important that I play the whole song. It's 4 minutes. Otherwise, you won't understand the whole process, right? So, the band is called Cocktail Havana. Why this name? Because they wanted to sound, they chose 2 words that anywhere, anyone would understand. Everybody knows what a cocktail is, and everybody knows Havana. I don't know what kind of political, what they stand for politically, but they are from Rio de Janeiro. They are an underground rock band, which is great because almost no one knows them. So it's very, very nice for reception tests because people get in touch with the material without having previous assumptions about the band. They just go for the material. So then I have the lyrics in Portuguese, then I translate it, I'm in touch with them. They are not my close friends, but I got contact with them, and they agree with this translation. So I'm going to play it for you.
Te peço, amigo, tenha calma. Temos tempo pra tudo. Mergulhar no mar de cidre e ver o mundo girar. Olhar o mundo lá de fora. Pequeno corpo celestial. Espaço, tempo, lugar. Não vou encontrar nenhuma mentira desaparecendo na barreira invisível que nos separa do céu. Disco voador e as coisas perdidas esqueceram sua cor. Disco voador. Separa do céu. Te peço, amigo, tenha calma. Teremos tempo pra tudo. Pode se viver o mundo girar. Disco voador e as coisas perdidas esqueceram sua cor. Disco voador.
Okay, so the song is something before that. Why I got interested in this song? Because I'm working on a project about how the space is represented in rock. So gravity, lack of boundaries, Cold War, extraterrestrial beings, and science fiction and space travel in general. So, you know, that attracted my attention because of that. And I had this mental image. But I am, I am biased. I've been thinking about music. So I started to think about what other people would imagine when listening to the song. And then just after I I listened to the song, I started looking for some information about it in the internet, and I found a documentary film made in 2014 about the recording of this song. So the producer of the song, which is this guy Fernando Sampaio, has, he was trying to establish himself as a producer, a song producer, music producer. And he had a series of documentaries of his works. And there was this one about specifically this song. And then I noticed that it's about 40 minutes long. And I noticed that when they were producing it, they used lots of expressions which showed that they had the intention of building this kind of feeling. So I had my first confirmation of meaning. They said that they had pieces and bits of music, and then one day one asked, what are we going to talk about? And the drummer said, flying saucer. And they started to build everything from this idea of flying saucer, from separate bits of music. And you see that the song has very many different sessions, contrasting sessions, right? And then I made this summary of some of their codes. One of the influences was Ticket to the Moon by Electric Light Orchestra. It has this spatial vibe. Then during a dialogue, the producer jokes, because he is a Pink Floyd fan, that will be the third side of the moon. And when they were trying to find the notes for that intermezzo, one of them said, remove that one note and leave a void, right? And then, as it progressed, they were actually talking about taking off. They started with this vague idea of something spatial, then they ended up with a very precise intention of building something which is taken off. And it's the one of the singers, when he says that, I just want to feel that the song is taken off. And he makes a movement on the song with his hands, he has his intention. And in the end, the producer says the main resource in order to make the song take off, as the band wanted, was to play with spatiality of things, with oscillation, right? So I had this confirmation from the band. Then actually, after that, I got in contact with them. And actually, it's a work in process. We're still talking about details, right, to develop an article and something broader. So I decided to test people who were not musicians, who didn't know the band, and I, as I told you, I've been working with reception tests for 10 years with different songs, and I added a semi-structured interview after I did the reception tests. How I did it, I edited the last minute, the coda, and I played the people I tested before. And then as track one, with no titles, no information, anything. And then I played, and I asked them, you just jot down on a piece of paper anything which comes to your mind, right? However you like. And then I played them, the whole song, right? And I tested 3 different age groups, from 15 to 21, 40, 55, 60, 80. Why? Because as I had felt this kind of reference to the 60s and the 70s, I wanted to check if people who were alive and kicking during the 60s and the 70s had the same references that I identified. Then I tested people of my own age group, which is obviously, you know, mid-40s, 50s. And then I tested people, this age group of my own daughter, right? To see what they would make out of it, right? And then in Brazil, that would be important, the same social cultural background, especially for the older people. Depending on your social cultural background, you will have some kind of references other groups won't have. I don't think that today, you know, the younger people would have this problem because, you know, access to anything is easier, right? And instant. But from people my age and older, that would make a lot of difference. For example, people my age from another cultural background probably wouldn't know about progressive rock of the 70s. You see? There, where I'm from, this is something to be taken in consideration. If you don't, you're not going to have a serious result, right? So, these are, I got much more from this, but this is a summary of what I had. From the 65 to 80 age people, I had, so far, it's still going on, I've had 13 participants. And this is one of the biggest surprises that I've had. People normally don't realize that the first track that they heard is the end of the second track that they heard. Just one after the other. I could never imagine that when I started. You know, I just separated the tracks because I wanted to check that feeling of heaviness of trying to take off, lift from gravity, which is mainly apparent in the coda. But other things come up, right? So in all age groups, the great majority of people just don't realize that they just heard the same bit, right? So you see all of them. These expectation, tension, feeling which is built, especially from the middle to the end of the song, is also very much present. You see, in the older people, 10 out of 13 mention that in various ways, you know, sometimes very explicitly. This reference to a recent past, especially the 60s and the 70s, with the feeling of nostalgia, was also very much present. And curiously, among people in this group, very few referred to science fiction or space. In the 40 to 55 age people, I've had 10 participants. Again, only 2 realized track 1 was the coda of track 2. Again, expectation and tension was very much present. Progressive rock, especially progressive rock, was also very present. And Pink Floyd specifically was cited many times, which I thought was very interesting because the producer himself declares he is a fan of Pink Floyd. So in a way, he might have chosen elements that were familiar to him in his musical vocabulary. Science fiction and space, 6 out of 10. And a recent past, 60s and 70s nostalgia, 8 out of 10. And in the 15-21 age group, I've had 9 participants. I have fewer because I have to ask permission for the parents before that, right? So sometimes it takes longer. Again, only 2 realized it was the Coda track 2. And I was very surprised by that. They have more accurate, specific reference to the 60s and the 70s. They also mentioned Pink Floyd, especially psychedelia. I didn't expect that. And mainly TV series, Doctor Who, Lost in Space, but you know, the original one from the 60s. So, and they referred to science fiction and space very, very often in various ways. Why I think we have this idea? The retro part, I think mainly it's because of the timbres. There is a plug-in for a Leslie speaker for the keyboards, the electric piano. I think the lyrics, the theme, which is it mentions the flying saucer, and also the strong structure, the song structure, which refers to progressive rock, and the flying saucer takeoff. The construction of the acoustic space, you know, there is phaser on the overhead, there's reverb, there is chorus, right? The chords change slowly. There are crescendos and glissandos, which refer to movement, right? Dislocation. The electronic noises, the texture, which gets thicker and thicker, especially in the end. The guitar line with E-bow, which, you know, enhances the feeling of sustain, and also the drums, which are edited to be thicker with that martial feeling. So this is my email if anyone wants to get in touch with me later, right? And part of this research in previous years' work was made with the support of FAPERJ, right? So
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Yes.
yeah.
Last
I'd like
question.
to remind you or something, I always remind you. I'm surprised that you said you were surprised about psychedelia, because the whole time you were playing the track, I was thinking this is pointing so strongly in terms of genre references. And I wondered, like that list, if you could go back to the previous slide, which I think is a really good.
I'm sorry.
Just that very last.
This
no,
one?
one more. Yeah, one more. Yeah, there when you've got your list there. I would drill in, if it were me, but you know, you've done a lot of work here. I'm not suggesting that this is work you should have done.
No, it's not
I'm just
finished.
saying as one next step, I would look at some of the qualities of the guitar distortion, because that last coda that you played, some of the sustain and the distortion levels on the guitar really were pointing to psychedelia in my ear.
No, that's it. It's the guitar line with the E-bow. It's a Gibson Les Paul with this E-bow, which is a device which enhances the sustain and also the acoustic space. But the guitar line, you know, there's more music analysis to this, which is, it doesn't fit here, but what he plays also has got to do with the entire thing. But I mean, the guitar timbre is very important. And the Leslie speaker plug-in. So they deliberately tried to make references to the 60s and the 70s. And when you know, as I told you, I've been in touch with the band, and all the references that they give are from that time. Two of these guys are big Beatle fans, right? And one of them, the one I met, used to play in a cover band of Beatles songs. So they are immersed in the 60s and the 70s, right? So
I guess maybe one of the points of that is perhaps the columns have some crossovers, that quite a lot of things on the right are actually...
No, yeah, they are not, they blend, you know, the intersection is not very clear, you know, it's listed like that just for presentation purposes, but you know, there's no, you can't say actually when one finishes and the other starts.
Right.
Depending on the aspects that you decide to focus, right?
Any more questions?
Yeah.
So I have a question about translation. So disco voadar sounds like flying disc to me.
Yeah.
And given that it's on a record, and that some people actually do use flying disc to refer to flying saucers, why have you chosen, or they have chosen?
No,
flying
because in
saucers?
Portuguese we call disco voador. The translation, you know, the expression we use is disco voador. This is the colloquial. We don't say UFOs or literally a saucer would be the thing that goes under the cup, right? We don't say that. That's not what we say.
So what I'm asking is, why have you not translated it as flying disc, which actually has many more meanings because it's a pun?
Yeah, but because I use the colloquial expression that people would understand. You know, I'm not a native speaker of English, so what came to my mind, the expression I know, is flying saucer, right? But flying disc might be as well, but literally in Portuguese that would be flying disc. You know, and in Latin languages, you know, we play on words, you know. Yeah, but I mean, the expression in Portuguese would be disco voador, and the expression I knew in English was flying saucer.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.